Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Live. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Trying to stay focused on the question you asked me before the break, DB. And that was, does Nebraska's historical context of who they are as a basketball program matter when we're evaluating the job that Fred Hoiberg's done, right? So I wanted to get numbers, right? This is a program, Nebraska Basketball, that has been ranked in the AP poll 10 times ever. So we're going back 75 years of an AP poll history.
You're getting ready to tell me some things that I'm well aware of, but I think everybody should hear.
I want to give context, right?
Yeah.
10 times
I do think it matters.
In the history of the AP poll, which goes back 75 years. Okay? That's not a lot. We're talking about, let's see, 8 NCAA tournament appearances ever. This is a tournament that goes back, again, about 75, 80 years. That is the context of what Nebraska basketball is, or has been historically. That's the part of me that instantly says, yes, it matters when you're talking about evaluating Fred Hoiberg. But then there is another part of me that says, okay, that's all true. But there's a part of me that also believes if you have a commitment to a sport in this day and age, financially, facilities, resources, and fan commitment, obviously, that Nebraska has, then it shouldn't necessarily matter in terms of making a tournament on a year in, year out, or fairly consistent basis. Are we talking about a different thing if you're talking about Final Fours and national championships? Absolutely. But I don't think the level of success that Nebraska fans are looking for is that at this point. I think they want to consistently make the NCAA tournament, and then we'll talk about other stuff. I don't know, with the commitment Nebraska has made to basketball, which I do think is significant, I don't know that the historical context matters there. Even acknowledging that the historical context is kind of horrifying.
Yeah. I think coaching against – the only reason I asked the question is because of the conversation I had with you yesterday or the day before where I said, you know, Nebraska has a perception problem. And I gave you the analogy of, you know, the 51-year-old bachelor who's loaded with a great job, never been married, no kids, right? Women probably approach him.
Yeah, might be something wrong there.
With some trepidation.
Yep.
Same as the 40-year-old, really good-looking young lady with no kids, never been married, short of her saying, you know what, I just have never wanted kids, right? You don't divulge that. But if you don't divulge that, dudes are going to be like,
what's going on there?
Man, what in the world? So that's Nebraska's basketball program.
100%. You
step foot on campus, you see the facilities, you see the athletic commitment, you see the fervor for the fan base. You're like, as a recruit, you're thinking, I'm trying to literally defy history.
How many recruits
listen to what I'm telling you,
though? I am listening. Is that I'm asking how common that is. I'm not around a lot of these kids.
So you don't think that they're aware of the fact that Nebraska's basketball program has never been good?
I think they probably are.
Okay.
To a certain extent, but I don't. My question is, how often does that impact a decision to go to a school? Well, like if everything else is what you want, that's what I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. You spend more time with these types of athletes than I do.
It's a thing.
Like, is it that's a thing they talk about?
It's a thing. Like, why haven't they won?
How? Because Nebraska football.
I mean, you have people in the fan base that talk about stupid curses.
So Nebraska football is dealing with a similar perception right now.
Yeah, see, I keep getting this. I'm going to have him hit me up.
Okay.
Hang on. I'm going to say hit us up because and I'm not going to say his name unless he calls.
888-638-4876.
He knows the number. He says the financial commitment that Nebraska is making to basketball is not enough. Too many players off the – No, see, that's not true. That's not true. Like, who are we talking about? He's saying like, hey, you know, off the record, the financial commitment has not been enough. Hunter Salas wasn't coming here. He just wasn't. right? John Tanji wasn't on the radar, really.
For almost anyone. He was going to go to New Mexico. Like, he was going to go to New Mexico, right?
Like, who are we talking about?
Mhm.
I don't know where. I don't know. I mean, and I could very well be missing it because clearly I don't know everything. But this right here drives me crazy. Because all things being, let's say Latrell Wrightsell could get $10 from
Mhm.
the SEC, and he could get $10 from Nebraska.
Mhm.
What do you mean it's not? Should we pay him 20?
You might have to.
Should
Like, if you're talking
So
about
for- so for-
overcoming a perception, you might have to.
so for him,
Mhm.
is more money the offset to coming back to Lincoln to play basketball and not in the SEC?
I mean,
So it would be easy to say, well, the financial commitment isn't there. You have like cost it like market value.
sure.
You know who's really done a good job of that? Who they just won't overspend, and they haven't won either. Nebraska football.
Mhm.
Like, where does this come from?
So here's my question: is if you're trying,
I'm telling you, man, that I don't know. I know a lot of these guys.
so I have two questions actually. So let's say you've used Hunter as an example a couple times. Wasn't going to come here, right?
No.
So I'm assuming. So tell me if I'm wrong. I'm
I
assuming.
don't know what Will Kyle's dad would say. Like, I don't know where we got this from.
I'm assuming
don't.
if Hunter Salas had the interest to come here, Nebraska would have found the means to pay him his market value.
Without question.
So that's when you're saying, hey, the financial commitment's there,
Without question.
but you don't want to pay Raleigh Wooster Hunter Salas money,
No.
right? Nobody does.
No.
I don't really want to pay Raleigh Wooster money, but that's a different conversation. Like, so that's what you're talking about when you say, hey, the financial commitment's there. You don't have the interest from the players.
You still have to,
You have to overcome people not want to be
How
there.
much would a good-looking girl have to be paid to date me? That's what we're talking about.
Basically, yeah. How much money would you have to make? Because that's the offset, right? For in the
Yeah.
dating world.
But then if that number is exorbitant, if she's like, man, that dude's a clown, man. I need $3 million.
Yeah.
And you know, my agent's like, man, $3 million, you ain't that good looking. And then the story would be, man, just didn't want to pay enough. That's what she would say.
Yeah.
Just didn't want to pay enough.
And then somebody would be like, oh, financial commitment's not there.
So that, like,
But then
the truth is probably somewhere in
On the-
like, are we gonna act like?
Yeah.
Are we really going to act like Creighton's NIL isn't slotted for the guys that they're getting? Do you
100%.
know why people gravitate towards Creighton, even though you may have a couple of guys on the high end and everybody else kind of slotted and it works? Because they win.
Yeah.
Because they win.
But if we're talking about overcoming perception, maybe you do have to overpay. Like, maybe you do have to go above and beyond. Because that's one of the ways you can overcome perception, right? That's what the Cleveland Browns just did with Myles Garrett.
How's it worked out for them so far?
Not great.
Okay.
But they get to keep Myles Garrett.
Yeah, they ponied up to pay D-Watt too, right?
Yeah.
Overcome perception. Haven't had a franchise quarterback since flipping Brian Sipe, right?
Can it have not worked? And I still think it was the right thing to do in terms of
Sure, that happens.
making the move.
That happens.
Right?
You cannot get the right results for the.
Like, maybe they chose the wrong guy, but
Yeah.
I can appreciate they tried.
I understand.
You know, I do think that's one of the ways Nebraska basketball can overcome their perception is to overpay for market value. I don't know if that's how they want to do it. That might be the most linear way to do it. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, we'll pay 150% of market value for you to come here.
Yeah, I just want to know where like this game of telephone came from.
Well, it's because you miss out on players. You hear what they're getting other places. You think the financial commitment wasn't there. But all things being equal, dollars being equal, Hunter Salas is going to the ACC over Nebraska. That's how it works.